to be what's left and all the rest scooped out and dropped into the sea. My flesh, forming a knot on itself, is a habit learned from whom? A mind reaching back into the dark, a body releasing itself backward into space, a faith I have no prayer in which to keep. Am I home or merely caught between two unmarked graves? I'm saying where we live is a mistake, a compromise. I'm made to make. I'm told come willingly, halfway across a bridge to where I'm halfway human, or else a door bricked over, behind which all I am. To be shadow cast by shadows cast by no one's hand, and now whose fault am I? It said I stand against the grain of natural law, a being in chaos, in argument with itself. What would it be to be simply? What would it be to be simply? I am here, but what of me that's gone stays gone? Neil Rand. So I'm going to read from each of my books, but finish up with a bunch of stuff from the new book. So this is from Message from the Vessel and Dream. And I think I want to do another dedication. I was really moved by what you read, Peggy, so I'd like to dedicate this poem to you. I think you'll get it after you hear it. All beauty is at continuous war with God, Jack Spicer. You've got it all wrong. Whatever it is cannot be labeled, cornered, captured, or caged. Its power comes from the mystery. Its beauty, the direct result of its ineffability. Not knowing is the secret. Not needing to know is the key. Realizing that the answer is unattainable and ought to remain that way. You fuck things up when you try to place it in a box, erect palaces, build altars, put it on display for all the world to see the glory in captivity. Not knowing can be painful, but it feels more honest. Rather be in the dark with hope than standing in the light, nothing left to learn. My disappointment is boundless. Your pretty words would be easier to swallow were they not so often followed by the gleeful slitting of your brother's throat. What, I ask you, has any of this to do with love? So about 2/3 of the poems in Message from the Vessel and the Dream are what I call collage poems. They're all found material, so we read a couple of those shorter ones. They can get kind of lengthy in here and heady. It's an intense experience, I would think, for people that read the whole thing. This is called I Love Every Movement. So this one's kind of a combo. It's found material and it's some stuff that I had to get off my chest. I love every movement. There's got to be more to this tradition of transmission than elitism and intellectual circle jerk. The tyranny of intentionality, visions of a glamorous hell with his bags full of havoc. Like Bobby and Joni walk in the festival grounds, cracking a bullwhip, superstars in our thinking. There's so much to cut through. It's a very complicated terrain. Where you swim, she drowns. Williams modeled brevity and precision. Duncan invited us to return to the field. Ginsberg recommended candor. Nikki reminded us to stand up. The whole impossibility of actually seeing something, the solid marrying the liquid, the curious, that curious lurking something. It's up to us to find their breath in the fog. To quietly float is a huge challenge. To get people to use their eyes and to get them to notice the things they don't pay attention to. Everybody does look. It's just a question of how hard. I just want to say that all the people that I borrow stuff from in the book, it's all attributed. There are notes with each poem. Give them their propers. So this is for the poets and the artists in the room. This one I think is 100% collage found material. How to shape the poetry juice that's all around you. Beauty and pretty are never in the same room. One man's wail is another's lullaby. Free from the curse of language, finally happy. Pleasure and joy can be a weapon. Like broccoli, it will do you no harm. Like violence is what we do. It's all good, know what I mean? Put the pieces where you may. Let the mask fall or put it on. The page will hold you. Howl, but don't get cocky, and you will shine like the brightest bling. Contemplation of all that must be left behind. The advantage of asceticism. Desire to shrink and expand simultaneously, to stave off the need to lick everything. Nothing noble about being a consumer of souls. Loudness, come to rock and shock you. To be large, big in Japan without totally destroying Osaka. Learn to take nothing personally while personalizing everything. Always a third way at least. Return to the well, throw yourself in. Swim in the eddy of words rather than the landfill of perpetual baked goods. Only you can set yourself free. Take a leap into the void, into a river of re-vision. Delicious, a very beautiful place to live. Woo! I think there's a little bit of Robin Cost Lewis in there. You should go out and buy both of her books, but her new book is especially beautiful. So then, this is a book from the Poetry Box. It's a Portland publisher. It's the only book so far that I've co-authored with my son, and one of the reasons that it was a co-authored book is that it's poems for and about him, and then there are some poems in here that he wrote about me, about our relationship, and very proud to do this with him. And the poems sort of span a time period from when he was about 1 until right around the time that he left the house, and he left the house right around the time that we were coming out of COVID. So just before he left, I got to spend, to live with him 24 hours a day for the first time since he was like around 4. So that was a beautiful thing to have just before, he became fully launched into the world. So I'm just going to read a few from this. And the first one is, he was 3 years old when I wrote this one. You'll probably pick up on that energy soon. It's called Angelo Discovers Dizzy. Let's look at the book with the picture of Dizzy's cheeks. Let's look at Dizzy's cheeks. It was fun looking at Dizzy's cheeks. This is, and you're listening to Astrology. This is Machito. Where is the car? Where is your piano? Is this Machito? It sounds like him. I think she's gonna play some Dizzy. Speaking of Diz, we're gonna send out a request to Angelo. He's a 3-year-old Dizzy Gillespie fan who called in. So this one goes out to Angelo. Oh blah be da, hi ho my beho, short paunchy notch nose, don't dance so hard, don't boogie, hoogie boogie bonch nose, hoogie boogie tranche nose. Dizzy Gillespie, the person who blows real hard, the waterfall on my meat, the basket still swinging, paddywhack on the snow, knick-knack on his body, unch, 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 unchy, 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 unchy. I'm playing thorns, but Dizzy let her 8-9. Dizzy played trumpet. Dizzy played the saxophone. Dizzy, does it make your cheeks so big? Does it make your cheeks so big? So I guess, the title of this book is Exchanging Wisdom, a Guide for Parents to be Autonomous. So the idea is, I think the parent-child relationship is inherently fascist, but it doesn't have to be that way. So I made a decision to not be a fascist to my son. I had a fascist father, and I said that I didn't want to do that. You can't control what other people do, you can only control what you do. So I raised him that way, and what happened as a result was, I got a decent, kind, beautiful person who respects other people and is civil and beautiful and all of those things. And I never made him do anything he didn't want to do. And and he thinks for himself, makes his own decisions. It's kind of beautiful. So I guess this is kind of about the mistakes that we all make as parents. Watching Inland Empire with an 8-year-old is not responsible parenting. August 2nd, 2008. Even before I invited my son to sit down with us, I was aware that Mr. Lynch's film would approximate the experience of another person's nightmare. So I should not have been surprised at Angelo's terror when the Phantom's maniacal, distorted face appeared. I may have mistaken his bravery for immunity. Who knows how often his rest has been disturbed by visits from two-faced or second-rate primetime zombies? Who knows what effect the burned chunks of the mutilated soldier in the Valley of Elah had on his young mind? Who can blame him for worrying that some harm will come to me in the night, for holding me tight and whispering, "Be safe," each time his mother picks him up from my place? Tiny man distracts from the contemplation of infinity. How gently has night, bound by neither vow nor contract, delivered you into a circle of ghostly deliverance devoid of daylight's mundanity. Every night, as I attempt to fall asleep, a tiny man screams at me from deep inside the fibers of my pillow, admonishing me, ranting nonsense and inscrutable mysticism to distract me from the contemplation of infinity, to prevent me from learning its origins and meaning. Mothers die. Poets sicken. No stopping this deterioration. Every chair at this table will eventually empty. No substitution for the living, breathing lover. Every brother, every sister will expire. Every sigh, every laugh, every cry fade. What is left? What remains? How does one continue after the duende has expired? Woo! So I was kind of like a good kid in school, like a really good kid. So I didn't have a lot of fun until I was in college. Then I went to a conservatory art school, and I played a lot of catch-up, you know. So one of the things that I told myself about that, about my LSD and mushroom experiences, which were good, they were good experiences, was that if I were to have a child, because I didn't have one at that time, that I would be honest about those experiences. And I was honest with Angelo about those experiences, and then he did his thing, you know, as a teenager, and he wasn't really, you know, like a lot of us, he wasn't quite prepared for the ego death part. So that's what this poem was kind of about. Sigil to prevent the spirit death of the psychonaut. Catholic school sense memory, the constant purgatory of fear. Below and beyond the honeycomb tile, the solidity of the world recedes. I am safe for as long as this strange vision holds. Later, ego death, the twirling of the leaf, and the sudden separation of the greens. Doors of perception remain open for the duration. I cannot prove that either of us is here, or that any of this is real. Certain that I can't tell you what any of it means. But I know that my love created you, because I was there at the moment you slipped screaming into this world. So I'm a poet because of Allen Ginsberg, you know. That doesn't make me unique. There are a lot of us who are poets because of Allen. But one of the things that I really learned is this idea that it's the first thing you see in this book. Allen Ginsberg wrote, "Candor ends paranoia." And that's one of those things that poets will occasionally say that can make your poetry better and it can make your life better. It's not always easy to practice it, but if you try to practice it, it's much better than if you lie or hide or keep things from others. And certainly, it's better than keeping things from yourself. So when Lightship Press approached me and said they wanted a book, which is, that's the dream, right? You're solicited, they want something. The only guidance that I was given was it had to have a theme. And for a little while, I've been leading workshops in both poetry and in memoir. And one of the things that really reaffirmed for me or confirmed for me was that all the writing genres overlap. And the labels we give them, that's just for, you know, like booksellers and librarians, like as a way to know where to put books on shelves, you know. And I realized that for years I had been doing autobiographical work. People are wrong, poets are especially wrong, about how much of the stuff in poems is strictly autobiographical. But so I decided to put a bunch of stuff in this book that was me being as open and honest and as autobiographical on the surface as it could possibly be. And then, of course, all the issues that came up with that came up even in the editing of the book. So I'm going to read a selection of these. I'm very proud of this. This small press, and they did a big Kickstarter to put out 4 books, including my own flagship press in Portland, Oregon. It has the best slogan, I think, of anybody. Support the living artists because the dead ones don't need it.
Hell yeah, brother.
So thank you in advance for the bag of living. At most poetry readings, there's a bag of nothing, you know what I'm saying?
It's on your desk already.
Thank you. Veracity. So it begins and ends with a poem called Veracity. This love is massive and can no longer be contained. However, it may be possible to channel it. Pray it doesn't hurt you. From Tsunami. Your love is a tsunami making its way west across thousands of miles to wash over me. Our love is a tsunami undaunted by well-laid plans, familiar terrain, or unimaginable distances. All I ever wanted was to be larger than life, like CinemaScope, Morrison, or Mingus, like this love we share. But in the face of this disaster, I laugh at my foolishness, for what is larger than this life? The tsunami teaches us the irrefutable nature of Maya. All that you see before you, whether warmly embraced or taken for granted, may be swept out to sea without warning. I also want to say that I'm proud that in these books that have come out, there's some of my visual art in every one of the books, because that wasn't like originally in the plan. So it just felt nice that the publishers wanted to do that. And Veracity is another poem. It has about 5 of my collages in there, my visual collages. This poem is called Accelerant. Recently and with cruel suddenness, the whiplash from joy to despair, to wonder, to horror, to discovery, to disappointment. I'm gonna start over. Recently and with cruel suddenness, the whiplash from joy to despair, to wonder, to horror, to discovery, to disappointment has really fucked with my equilibrium. An experience akin to walking a tightrope in a pitch black tunnel after a tab of acid, attempting to remain upright as the negative capability of existence flashes at me with the unrelenting rapidity of strobe light. I need a friend. I need a traveling curandero, someone to slide their cold fingers into my underpants, whispering, every little thing gonna be all right. Dysmorphia Dilemma. What combination of arrogance and denial makes it impossible to see just how enormous I have allowed myself to become? How did I acquire the sickness that convinces me that what I see reflected is acceptable? So I want to say to people, especially some of the other large folks that might be out there, is that this book is also about self-love, but it's about being honest. So I'm trying to be honest there. That's what that poem is about. Video chat with my self-quarantined son. I stare into the void, looking for evidence of my progeny. Monolithic black strip hums, pregnant with nothingness. In 1977, 2001, 2010, and 2020 simultaneously. Like the hum of a summer night decades ago, when my own father allowed me to stay up past my bedtime to witness Kubrick's Dawn of Man in the living room of the apartment built atop my grandparents' house in New Hyde Park. My God, it's full of stars. I don't know if there are any film geeks out here, but that screen on that TV was about this big. And where we lived, near where we lived in Portland, Oregon, they did, they went to great effort to get a 70 millimeter projector. So if you come to the Hollywood Theater in Portland, Oregon, it's so popular when they do 2001: A Space Odyssey, they always sell it out. So they're showing it like a few times a year every year, along with other great 70 millimeter films. It's, if you're a film geek, it's worth the pilgrimage. And occasionally people like Quentin Tarantino will just like show up to say hi. Films as well. This is one I want to read to you because I fought for it. I had a really good editor. The editor's job is to make you look better, to make the poems better, and to make the book as a whole better. And that's what my editor did. And we really did have a mutual respect, but we wrangled a little bit. And so, so I fought for this one to be in here because it meant something to me. Records are analog time machines. If I should be allowed one more breath, I vow to burn fearlessly in time's crooked corners, the hidden vestibule and harsh sauna, shorn of ego trauma. For we congratulate ourselves for all the wrong revelations, must be willing to return to the unfettered landscape of the subconscious, must be allowed one more chance, one more dance with my first near blowjob experience, the brilliant, cock-hungry goth of my virginal 17-year-old dreams, first to pay me that kind of attention. Running out of time in my cheap-paneled half-garage hideout where Creepshow, Dio, Hendrix, and Otis Redding transmit loving sound waves into the future. Physical graffiti, the first Led Zeppelin cassette to accompany me on my paper route, delivering Newsday and Ridge on the Long Island of my boyhood. Cashmere, in my time of dying, custard pie, boogie with stew, houses of the holy. On the wings of maybe, my fantasies of a life beyond the dreadful ennui of the suburbs did take flight. Horny, confused, terrified, invisible to the girls in the neighborhood, we learned to masturbate constantly. At age 11, learned what all the parts looked like and what they did from stolen issues of Hustler and Puritan magazine. Kathy B., older, wiser, writing songs together on the porch as Queen's crazy little thing called love drifted out from behind screen door. We ran around the house playing catch and kiss. She was my first kiss. Rick was bolder than me, tried to undo her bikini top when it was his turn in the boiler room. Lazy summer afternoons, coy glimpses of pleasures yet to come. The melodrama of my bipolar first love triggers a sharp wince whenever I hear The Cure. Love song is particularly painful. My first wife's betrayals made it impossible to ever again listen to the Indigo Girls. And when the love of my life dies, I may never again be able to enjoy You Make Me Feel Like a Natural Woman.
Oh, shit.
Radio dial, thank you. Radio dial, white noise, redelivers me to the present moment. Can I live today? I thank you for your applause, and you're probably very happy I did not try to sing You Make Me Feel Like a Natural Woman. That is our song. It's not news to Toni. She's aware. Yes, and she does make me feel like a natural woman. If that's confusing for you, we can talk about it after the show. So I was very fortunate during COVID. These are reading glasses only. I have both eyes operated on, so I actually can't see anybody unless I take them off. And people who are nervous up here, it's helpful. It helps a little bit actually to not see anybody at all. But anyway, I like doing this. I'm one of those people who fell in love with it, and now I'm a ham and you can't get me away from the mic. But anyway, it's good to see all of you. It's good to have all of you here, and it feels good to expose yourself in public. You know what I'm saying? It really does. It's healing. It's healing. It's necessary, and for poets especially, why even bother to do something as difficult and wonderful and beautiful as poetry if you're going to half-ass it? You know what I'm saying? So while I was very lucky during COVID, I got to live with my wife, my son, like I said, for the first time since he was 4, and his beautiful fiancée-to-be. So the 4 of us were there, and the whole time that we were all staying at home to keep each other safe and stay safe, I was thinking about my friends and family and different people all over the world who were living by themselves, you know, all alone. I know that I would not have made it mental health-wise if I was all by myself during that time. And I learned this new term that I had never heard before, skin hunger. And just thinking about what that means, skin hunger, really blew my mind. So I wrote this short poem about that. Skin Hunger Blues. The endless search for the perfect word, the precise choice, a sigil with the weight to convey the roiling hunger of this skin, the loneliness of the human heart, dying without the reassurance of a hand upon our flesh. wearing a mushroom shirt because Toni bought me a mushroom shirt. And as I have said to many audiences, only had good experiences in mushrooms. Maybe come my poetry reading shirt, we'll see.
Here's the t-shirt.
This is Charles Mingus in New York City. And I was thinking about him because of Juneteenth, but also because he's mentioned in the book. Yeah, that's one of my candid moments, saying that I want to be as larger than life as Charles Mingus, one of my heroes. And if you don't know who Charles Mingus is, it's okay. That's why we leave the house on occasion.
Okay.
Go look him up. Go look him up. It's okay. I'll forgive you. All right. Here's what I want to do. Yeah, I got it. Trust that a word may undo you after any life. Language led me back to my divinity. Each line I wrote vibrating with the mysteries to messy ineffability, the source of our hope. Painful stories of transgressions serve as soaring sigils, holding space for our grief, our despondent fatigue, our suspicions and terrors, our leftover negativity. Language leads me in, out, and through this inevitable suffering. I invite each of you to endure it with me, closer now. Paper-cut mark of the self-aware criminal. Sometimes we hide behind pretty words, employ linguistic sleight of hand to direct the audience's attention away from the truth. Self-hatred, profound disappointment, hopelessness. But a weight lifts when we loose a torrent of unspeakable realities upon the blankness to shriek our inadequacies and insecurities at the willing. Secrets verbalized catalyze our release from the bonds of shame. We breathe again, another survivor born into the fresh air of candor's visibility. Endure with me. For Toni, when I see my sweet little cupcake smile, I want to be the reason for all that joy. The man who can see the little girl in saddle shoes and brings her the moon because queen of all my dreams deserves it. Let's dance and make love and laugh and argue and discuss the state of the world and kiss and hold hands and read poems to each other, savoring each and every present moment we have before our bodies betray us. The challenge of how beautiful a life can be after Charles White. You can look him up too, and you can also look up Cecil Taylor, who's going to be a shout out here in a second. The challenge of how beautiful a life can be. As the realization that I was predestined for a life of the mind first occurred, I could not have predicted the chasm between internal chaos and external mystery, the gap between perceiver and perceived, the thing itself enticingly unreliable. No time for that which don't grab me, stir my soul. Cecil Taylor's piano collapses time so hard that the white heat bursts, swirls, and explodes outward. Electrifying tendrils connect my spirit with all beings, sentient and inanimate. The miracle of each breath paradoxical as the ubiquity of our desire. Let me be generator and receptacle. Dance with me. Feel the electricity each time your delicious beauty whirs close to me. And it wasn't my idea to begin and end the book with veracity. I came up with the title Veracity. Another nice thing they did was to ask me to do a drawing for the cover. They did that with some of the other people too, asked for art and so forth. So that was a flattering thing. But once we had that idea, I like the idea of, depending on where you're from, I'm from the East Coast, and how you pronounce things, voracity, which is about, the hunger. This book is a lot about hunger. Could sound like veracity, which means truth, telling the truth. So I like the sort of play on words of that. So when they said, why don't you begin and end the book with the poem Veracity, but like switch it up a little at the end, I thought that was a great idea. So here's how the book ends. Veracity. This love is massive and cannot be contained. However, it may be possible to train myself to throw that weight around with care. Thank you for your attention.
Yeah, boy.
And thank you, Toni, for everything, including the shirt. By the way, this place is beautiful. I'm going to tell all my friends in Vancouver, Washington,
Perfect.
to come to the Sisters Restaurant. I love this place. Yeah.
And I'm already looking for next year, so send poets my way. Thank you everyone for coming out. This ends the poetry portion of the evening, but Christopher Luna will be over here selling his books. It's also a good chance to talk to other poets.
Oh, you're welcome. It's really good to meet you.
It's important for poets to know that their work matters. Thank you for coming out and bringing all your friends. Thank you for reading. Thank you everyone. Hopefully we will see you back many times.
Whenever I can. I tell people I'm a publisher, I'm willing to publish and I'm just really try. But I've been doing it with jazz since